Growing up, me and my brother were always super close. We were always one to explore, problem solve. Everyone always would comment on how close we were. We stayed in Animal Kingdom. We got the whole experience of the kangaroos and the elephants waking us up in the morning. And my favorite part was gonna be the Princess Castle. I was super excited to see that. And I remember I was holding my brother's hand and we were walking down the walkway. I was just in awe of the entire castle. I think it really stuck with me because it was a big moment between me and my brother. We were going out and exploring Disney together. And of course our parents were there. It was a huge family trip, but for the main part, it was me and my brother. We were having fun together and just kind of exploring the world. When he was 8, I was 10 at the time, he had a bicycle accident that resulted in a brain injury and a fractured skull. My brother was 8, he was at the skate park in Lansing, and he went headfirst over the handlebars. It was a complete accident, no one was at fault for it. I was at a sleepover at the time, so I didn't find out until the day after, which was a lot more confusing at that point because, you didn't get the whole story, and I was still 10, so they were, giving us the kid version of it. It all happened so fast, and in my 10-year-old brain, all I could think of, well, then just fix him. And that's all just fix him. It's that simple. And it wasn't that simple, but in my mind, that's all I could think of. He was in the hospital for about a week. He had a craniotomy, and then he was in a neck brace for about 6 months after the accident. He was a little ball of energy. He went into surgery with 2 thumbs up, and he was giggling. He never cried. He was walking after, I believe, day 5, and he was just a soldier through it all. I was always helping my brother with his Legos in the hospital, trying to work through physical therapy. And then when he got home, I was the one to push him in the wheelchair, and I would fight over that because that was my job as the big sister. We got a lot closer from the accident. During the stay in the hospital, 74 people came to the hospital, excluding family. So we had a lot of people, teachers, my principal came, a lot of Lansing residents and community friends. So it was really cool to see that, especially when you're so young that your world's upside down, but there's still so many people that were involved and so many people that were helping us. And his entire wall was filled with cards, and people were taking me out to lunch to kind of, shield me from everything. And it was just really cool to see everyone help us through that time. I think it's crazy, crazy important to be close with family. I would not be here today if it weren't for my family. They've, always been the ones to push me, give more ideas, give me criticism when I need to hear it. And I really just think that learning to fall back on each other is one of the greatest things that you could do because they're going to be there no matter what. Once COVID started, I kind of had a shift, in my mindset. I knew that we were going to be home for at least 2 weeks, and I was completely bummed out about that. Going into COVID, I was still in a scared mindset, is what I like to call it. I was very worried about where my life was going to take me, what people thought of me, and just about everything else in between. Me and my mom were just kind of driving around one day. As we were driving down Holman Avenue over in Hammond, we had seen just a random little box, and we had no clue what it was at the time. So we jumped out the car, and it was a micro pantry. And we came to find out that it was actually a Girl Scout who set that up, and immediately I wanted to find out who she was. I had been in Girl Scouts at the time for about 12 years. And so I was just really shocked that I'd never kind of heard of this. So soon after, we just started filling it, just like everyone else. We were cleaning out our pantries and dropping off food over there. And it just was kind of in the back of our head from, March until August that it was there, we were helping it, but it wasn't really on my radar to make one. And then in August, when I was volunteering, it kind of came full circle, and I jogged my memory about that food pantry. And I was like, let's put a food micro pantry in Lansing. So the first one was put up in October of 2020. We had gotten the inspiration and the final okay to build the pantry in August of 2020 with First United Methodist Church. I was volunteering at the church. They were doing a food giveaway. And so I had just walked over to the pastor, and we were just kind of making conversation. Pastor Dave is very, very sweet. And we were just talking, and he said how much of a need there was. He had never seen this great of a need. There were people lining down the street. And I had said, let's make it more permanent. And he's kind of was like, what do you mean? And I was like, let's put a food pantry here. By the next morning, so 7 in the morning, that Sunday, I had an email in my inbox waiting that was finally approved. I woke up that morning and I saw it and I was like, oh my goodness. And I got out of bed and I showed my mom and I'm like, Mom, we're gonna do it. And she's laughing at me and the wheels kept turning. I'm like, I need to get this. I need to go to this store. This is what I can do. I need to get poster boards, and everything just fell in place. So for the first one, I actually didn't build it. It was another nonprofit at the time. I just made a call, got it all set up, and I ended up donating monetarily so that they can support that pantry. Moving forward, after we saw how simple it was to put up that first one, me and my dad were like, why can't we just build one? And so that's kind of how it started, and we decided to build the following pantries. For the first micro pantry, we did a little prayer sermon, and then we also did a ribbon cutting ceremony. I remember I was in tears, just like, oh my God, this is finally happening. And we all had brought a couple bags of food each. And then we all sat in a circle and we just kind of prayed over the pantry, praying over the food that nourishes families. By the next morning, I had already gotten a couple families who said they used it. So I remember that first week I was just in awe of how fast it was already going, and I knew that I wanted to do more. Everyone was very excited, especially with it being COVID, that people were able to help in a different way. This was a way to help people without coming in contact. You could drive by, drop off the food, and there's no worry about contamination and whatnot. So it was a very safe way to help the community at the time, and that's what really drew people into it. The first one that I built, it was fun. I am not one to shy away from pajama pants, so I actually built most of the pantry in my pajama pants. And it was a lot of fun. Me and my dad, it was kind of a learning curve. I knew how to use a drill to an extent, knew how to use a hammer to an extent, so it was a lot of fun to learn how to actually do it. But it was harder than I thought, just to kind of see leveling. It was a big issue, and then also trying to make it weatherproof, especially the doors, just making sure everything is safe. We want it to be very sustainable. If we only have to build it once, we're doing our job right. So we were in the garage most of the winter building them, and we had heat blowing, and my dad had music blasting the entire time, and we just worked it out. And I believe the first one took us about 3 weeks to build, where opposed to the latest one took us about 3 days. In comparison, from the first pantry that I built to the newest one, the first micro pantry took about $560 to make. And with the last one, it took us $73. And that is strictly because of Lansing's donors. I have put up 8 micro pantries since August of 2020. I think it all circles back to Cody's accident, in all honesty, just because Lansing gave so much to us during that time that it just kind of became routine to give back. Cody's also been super, super supportive with the pantries, actually. And one of the big things he actually said was the micro pantries don't have anything written in Spanish. And I didn't realize that, and it was all in English. And so after that day, I put Spanish signs in all the pantries so that they're bilingual. My mother always she was a helper growing up. She was a teacher and she was a babysitter. And she's always been a super giving person, always looking for a way to help, looking for a problem to solve. And I think I really took a lot of that into my life. I saw her, helping every way she can, and it just kind of became part of my day. And it makes other people's day better, which it might sound silly, but it makes my day better just to see other people smile, other people laugh, and even like the simple things, like someone dancing in the car next to me, I will have no shame dancing with them and at 8 a.m. and just kind of doing silly things to brighten their day. There was a family living in one of the hotels in Lansing, and they were a family of 4 kids and 2 adults. They were living in the hotel for about 6 months, and I was taking food over to them about once a week, twice a week, depending on the week. But I was actually getting food donated from a school in Homewood that had leftover cafeteria food after the school day. So they were getting fresh fruit, fresh milk, chicken tenders, pizza, burritos, whatever the kids had that day. It was a very eye-opening experience for me just to see a 16-year-old son in a hotel room with his family, and I was 16 at the time, so perspective was huge for me at the time, just to see the difference in our 2 lives. I was extremely grateful. I was grateful for my family and grateful for my upbringing and our home. I was just always trying to support them in any ways I can. Easter baskets, I came dressed as the Easter Bunny just to kind of help them, make the best of their situation. They ended up moving out of the hotel. They got a house over in Hammond, and I was able to help them furnish the house. So a couple people in Lansing had donated different furniture. I got them a full bedroom set from a family in Lansing, and then a couple side tables from I believe a family in Hammond. It was really cool to see their story turn around, see where they came from, and I was not a huge part of their story, but I was a part of their story, and it was cool to see that, come about. They're doing good. Last I heard from them, they were living somewhere in Chicago. I believe their son graduated high school, and they don't need my help as much, so it's really cool to see that. A lot of people ask what I want the future to look like, and I'm kind of open to whatever it can be. I've said a couple times that if we're in tomorrow, that's okay, because in this 3 years, we've already fed so many families and we've put up so many pantries. But I really hope that, I've inspired enough people to go forward, even if it's just another Girl Scout that's going to put up a pantry like it all started with the Hammond Pantry. Moving forward, I'm going to be doing another micro pantry with a elementary and middle school. So they're going to actually be completely helping me out of the process, down to painting and nailing everything. That's the whole purpose of it, I feel like, is kind of pushing other people to get involved, and right there is what we're going to be doing. There was a lot of people my age asking, why would you want to put up food pantries? And I don't have a crazy story about why my family was in need of food or nothing like that, but it's just the fact of seeing people that don't have their food and knowing that I never want to be in that position, and if there's any way that I could help avoid that for someone else, that I'm going to do it. I know what it's like to be sad, and I know what it's like to be happy, and I would rather people be happy, so seeing that just kind of pushes me to be more happy.